Imagine if one tiny financial habit, something that costs less than a fast food meal, could quietly change your entire financial future. No complicated strategies, no secret investment tricks, no high-risk gambling in the market. Just a small daily decision that almost anyone can make. The surprising truth is that many of the world's wealthiest investors believe that wealth is rarely built through dramatic moves. Instead, it is built through simple habits repeated over long periods of time. One of the most powerful habits ever discussed by legendary investor Warren Buffett is the idea that consistent investing, even in very small amounts, can quietly create extraordinary financial outcomes. Most people believe that becoming wealthy requires a very high income. They imagine that millionaires must earn huge salaries, own giant businesses, or inherit money. But when you study real financial history, you discover something surprising. Income alone does not determine who becomes wealthy. Many people who earn six-figure salaries still struggle financially their entire lives. At the same time, countless ordinary people with modest incomes slowly build impressive wealth over decades. The difference between these two groups is not intelligence, education, or even luck. The difference is habits, specifically daily financial habits. Think about the way most people handle money. When income arrives, the first instinct is to spend. Bills come first, then small pleasures, coffee on the way to work, online subscriptions, food deliveries, impulse purchases that feel small in the moment but slowly drain financial potential over time. None of these purchases seem dangerous individually. $10 here, $15 there, maybe $20 on something unnecessary. But over months and years, these small decisions accumulate into thousands of dollars that disappear without creating any long-term value. The truly wealthy approach money differently. Instead of asking themselves what they can spend today, they ask what they can invest for tomorrow. This shift in thinking is subtle but extremely powerful. Rather than waiting until the end of the month to see if anything is left to save, disciplined investors reverse the process. They invest first and spend what remains. Even when the amount is small, the act of investing creates momentum. It transforms money from something that disappears into something that grows. One of the simplest habits that reflects this philosophy is the idea of investing just $10 every day. $10 may not sound impressive. In fact, many people spend more than that without even noticing. But the importance of the habit is not the size of the amount. The importance lies in the consistency of the behavior. When someone commits to investing a small amount every single day, they're training their brain to think like an investor rather than a consumer. Consider what $10 per day actually means over time. In 1 week, it becomes $70. In a month, it becomes roughly $300. In a year, it becomes more than $3,600. At first glance, that number may still seem modest, but the real transformation begins when that money is placed into investments that grow over time. When money is invested in productive assets such as diversified stock funds, businesses, or other long-term investments, it begins to compound. Compounding is one of the most powerful forces in finance. It simply means that your money earns returns, and those returns begin earning their own returns. Over time, this creates a snowball effect where growth accelerates faster and faster. Early on, the progress appears slow. The first few years may not look impressive at all, but as time passes, the curve begins to rise dramatically. This is why long-term investors are so patient. They understand that the real rewards of compounding arrive later. The life story of Warren Buffett is often used as one of the greatest examples of compounding in history. Buffett began investing as a child. At the age of 11, he bought his first stock. What is truly fascinating is that the majority of his wealth did not appear until much later in life, even though he was already a skilled investor early on. The massive explosion of his net worth happened after decades of compounding. This illustrates a powerful lesson. The earlier someone begins investing, the more time compounding has to work. Imagine two people who both invest the same amount of money. but one begins 10 years earlier than the other. Even though the difference may seem small, the person who started earlier will likely end up with significantly more wealth, simply because their investments had more time to grow. Time is the most valuable ingredient in the compounding process, and unfortunately, it is the one resource people cannot recover once it is lost. The $10 habit is powerful because it removes the most common excuse people use to avoid investing. Many individuals believe they need large sums of money before they can start. They tell themselves that investing will begin after they receive a promotion, after they pay off certain bills, or after they reach some future milestone. But this delay is often what prevents people from ever building serious wealth. By starting with a small daily amount, the psychological barrier disappears. The focus shifts away from waiting and toward action. Another powerful aspect of the habit is that it changes how people view spending. When someone begins investing every day, they naturally become more aware of where their money goes. Small purchases that once seemed harmless begin to look different. A $10 impulse purchase is no longer just a snack or a convenience. It becomes a choice between immediate pleasure and future growth. Over time, this awareness leads to smarter financial decisions across every part of life. The discipline created by daily investing also builds emotional strength. One of the biggest challenges in investing is dealing with market volatility. Financial markets rise and fall constantly. Prices sometimes drop suddenly, creating fear and uncertainty. Many inexperienced investors panic during these moments and sell their investments at exactly the wrong time. But someone who invests consistently every day develops a different mindset. Instead of fearing market fluctuations, they see them as normal parts of the process. Daily investors understand that short-term movements are less important than long-term growth. When markets fall, their habit continues. They keep investing small amounts regularly, which often means they purchase assets at lower prices. Over time, this strategy can actually improve long-term returns by staying consistent regardless of market conditions. Disciplined investors remove emotion from their financial decisions. Another reason this habit is so powerful is that it creates identity change. People who invest daily begin to see themselves differently. They no longer view themselves as passive earners who depend entirely on their jobs for income. Instead, they begin to see themselves as owners of assets. Each investment represents a small piece of a company, a fund, or another productive asset that can generate value over time. This shift in identity is extremely important because it reinforces long-term thinking. When someone thinks like an owner, they naturally focus on growth, patience, and sustainability. They begin to understand that wealth is not about quick profits, but about building systems that produce value for decades. This mindset leads to better financial choices not only in investing, but also in career decisions, spending habits, and lifestyle planning. The simplicity of the $10 habit is also its greatest strength. Many people are intimidated by the world of finance because it seems complex and filled with technical language. Terms like diversification, market cycles, and asset allocation can sound overwhelming to beginners, but the habit itself requires none of that complexity at the beginning. It simply requires the decision to start investing consistently. Over time, as people continue investing small amounts, curiosity naturally grows. They begin learning more about how markets work. They start reading about successful investors, understanding business models, and exploring different types of investments. The habit becomes a gateway to financial education. Instead of feeling confused or intimidated, the investor gradually becomes more knowledgeable and confident. Another hidden benefit of the habit is the sense of control it provides. Many people feel powerless when it comes to their financial future. Economic news, inflation, job markets, and political decisions often create the impression that individual actions do not matter. But when someone invests every day, even in small amounts, they regain a sense of control. They are actively shaping their future, rather than passively reacting to circumstances. Over the course of several years, the results of this habit begin to become visible. The investment account slowly grows. Dividends may start appearing. Market growth adds additional value. What began as $10 a day gradually turns into thousands of dollars, then tens of thousands. Eventually, with enough time and discipline, the numbers can become life-changing. The most important lesson behind this habit is not really about $10. The amount itself is simply a symbol of consistency. Someone could start with $5, $20, or any amount that fits their financial situation. The true power lies in building the behavior of investing regularly and refusing to break that habit. Financial success rarely comes from dramatic moments. It comes from thousands of small decisions made correctly over long periods of time. Each small investment represents a vote for your future self. Each day that you choose investing over unnecessary spending, you are quietly building a foundation that can support your future goals. Years from now, when you look back at your financial journey, the most important decision may not be the specific investment you chose or the exact moment you entered the market. The most important decision may simply be the day you started, because the moment you begin investing consistently, you set in motion a process that can grow far beyond the small amounts you started with. There is a famous idea often repeated in investing circles. The best time to plant a tree was many years ago, but the second best time is today. Wealth works in a similar way. The earlier someone begins building financial habits, the greater the eventual reward. But even those who start later can still benefit from the power of consistency and compounding. The $10 habit is not about getting rich quickly. It is about building a system that works quietly in the background of your life. While you focus on your career, your family, and your goals, your investments continue to grow. Over time, they become a financial safety net, an opportunity fund, and eventually a source of independence. In the end, the secret behind most great fortunes is not mystery or luck. It is patience. It is discipline. It is the willingness to do small things correctly every single day. When someone commits to that process, even the smallest habit can grow into something extraordinary. And perhaps the most powerful part of all is that this habit is available to almost anyone. It does not require a special background, advanced education, or extraordinary talent. It only requires the decision to begin and the discipline to continue. Over time, that simple decision can quietly transform an ordinary financial life into an extraordinary one.